Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated for the complete health and continued health of Chana Batzim Fega and for Fu'ash Shlema Eliyahu Shimon Mazal Fortuné, Haim Rafael ben Frida, and Yitzhak ben Sarah. Also dedicated, and learning for this week is dedicated by the Torah Center Diamond Donors, the Murciano family, and loving memory of Nishmat Salman Murciano's mother, Felicia Bat Miriam Murciano, Aleha Shalom. Also sponsored anonymously, dedicated in loving memory, Nishmat Rav Shmuel Tzvi Ben Yosef Halevi Aleha Shalom. Dedicated in loving memory Nishmatem of Adele Bat Victoria and Mazah Bat Rachel and Ezra Ben Nahama, sponsored by Monique and David Haddad. Thank you so much, Monique and David. Also dedicated in loving memory in Nishmat Ruth Orfali Bat Adela Aleha Shalom, sponsored by her family, who have sponsored an entire year of Breakfast in the Class for her Ilui Nishama. What a magnificent thing to do. Okay, let us begin. We read this week's parasha all about the berachot of Yaakov Avinu that he gave to his children. Doc, it's good to see you sometimes in suits, sometimes in scrubs. You're rocking, you're changing things up. We love it. Chazak Baruch. Okay. So there's a beautiful beracha that I want to take a look at together with you this morning. That is the beracha that Yaakov Avinu gives Yisachar. And what does he say? Yisachar hamor garib. Yisachar is a donkey. And he carries this weight of all the stuff that he's got on his back. Donkeys are famously used for the amount of weight that they could lift and transport. So they're very sturdy. They've got the short legs, so that also kind of on a physics level helps them do what they need to do. So Yisachar is this carrier of weight, and the pasuk says, "Vayar menucha kitob," and he saw that menucha, that rest was good. Vayar menucha kitob, vayet shechmo lizbol, and he bent, right? Vayet, and he bent, shechmo, which means his shoulder, lisbol, to carry. All right? Now, there's a famous question that's asked. Carrying is work. Menucha is rest. What does it mean that he saw menucha, he saw rest was good, so he bent his shoulder to shoulder the burden, to shoulder the weight of rest? Is he working or is he resting? Which one is it? And there's different answers to this conundrum, shall we call it? Now, some people, they're workaholics. They're only happy at work. Right? Some people are like that. But over here, we're talking about a beracha that Yaakov is giving to Yisachar. So, I don't know that being a workaholic is a beracha. Anything with the word aholic in the back of it is generally not a great thing. All right? So, there's one thing I want to point out, that one approach in the Chachamim that I want to point out that I think really resonates with me, but I think also is an instruction and a great source of chizuk for everyone that hears. What is Yaakov telling his son Yisachar? You're someone that knows how to carry weight. In your nature, what are you? You are a hamor garib. You're someone that is capable of carrying. You have some people, forget about it. Anything goes wrong, they fall apart. Like a wet paper bag. You ever see people like this? Right? They go to the airport. The person across the counter says to them, listen, this suitcase is 30 pounds and this one is 20 pounds. You're allowed 25 pounds. So I need you to move 5 pounds from that suitcase to this suitcase. The waterworks that come out could solve the drought of California. Hashem should protect these people. Hashem should protect these homes, these lives of people that we are witnessing that are now in danger's way. And it needs to be said, they're in harm's way, not only because of the fire, but because of silly decisions made by silly politicians, to uphold silly agendas. And Ezu Chacham Aro'et Hanolad, if you decided to do all these dumb things for dumb reasons, and you put everyone except for the most important people first, people from your state, people that are upholding your state, for all sorts of dumb reasons, so people could pat you on the back, now you're paying the price. Hashem yishmerem v'yachayem. My friends, there's some people, they're sitting in a situation like this, right? They start crying. The end of the world. What's the problem? She didn't say you can't go. She didn't say she's rejecting your suitcase. She didn't say you don't have a seat. She wants you to move 5 pounds from here to... Now, does she need to do that? No. I always love this. Sir, it's very important. Regulations state that your suitcase can't be more than this amount of weight. Regulations. Sir, I'm not doing this for my health, sir. Sir, it's very important, sir. Very important. You know why? Because the people that are lifting these bags, it's too heavy. We can't do it to them. Think of the children. Think of the people lifting the bags, sir. I don't understand. Do they have different guys lifting the baggage of people in first class? Because those suitcases are allowed to be 32 pounds. No. I don't understand.
No, there's just more.
There's just?
You bring more suitcases, but the same weight.
Nope, not the same weight. Actually, incorrect. Not the same weight. You'll add more weight in your suitcase. In the economy, they're moving everyone around into different seats. Right? I want to sit over here. No, you can't sit over here. Weight needs to be evenly distributed. But you get into first class and business class, you sit wherever the heck you want. Sir, seatbelt! Except if you're in first class or business class, then do whatever you like. So my friends, there are times when people are doing very silly things and they're claiming that they're for reasons, and it's not for reasons like that at all. Either way, you have a person falls apart from something as small as that. I remember once someone was telling me I'm having the worst day. Oy, sorry, what happened? I waited all this time from the car. I got to the car dealership and it wasn't the car that I ordered. What was the problem? It wasn't the wrong model. It wasn't the wrong thing. It had the seats. It had the elbow warmer. It had the, everything you could imagine. It had all of it. But she said the one that I ordered, it had a different color piping on the leather seat. So just to be clear, do you know what piping is? It's not pipes. Piping is at the edge of the seat, there's that little bump that's like a different color. And this person is having, the worst day. It's unbelievable. There's some people, Yaakov says to Yisachar, I want you to understand, there's something amazing about you. And you know what's amazing about you? You are a carrier. Now that word medically means something else. Right? But in the terminology of being able to lift, of being able to achieve, of not being deterred by a difficult time, by a challenging month, by a hard quarter. In order to be able to succeed, you need to survive those times. Some people, they're not survivors. They don't know how to carry. You know what? So that guy, he can never work for himself. He'll be an employee. He'll get a safe paycheck for the rest of his life, but he'll never make the upswing. He'll never be the one that's taking home, the benefit of putting the risk in, just because he wasn't a person that was capable of doing it. Who did the Bnei Yisachar wind up becoming? Our rabbis tell us that the children of Yisachar become the members of the Sanhedrin. They're the ones that set the times for the calendar. And I always love this idea that they had this binah, this wisdom for the times. And I thought to myself, it's a strange thing to say. Is that the most difficult thing that a dayan has to go through? Like setting the calendar, that's the hardest item. No question, if you learn Masechet Rosh Hashanah, you'll find out it's not so easy to question the witnesses and what did the moon look like, and did it look like a pregnant woman whose mouth was by her stomach? All sorts of questions. But is that the hardest thing that the Dayan needs to do? The answer is no. It's no, there's much harder things. You know how hard it is, the sugyot of aguna? You know how hard it is, some of these, it's very difficult. Now again, Kiddush Levana is a hard thing. You know, open up Rambam and the halachot of Kiddush Levana, murder. Yeah, there's harder things. You know what? Like actual murder. When someone comes into the Beit Din and they need to rule on it, right? And they have to go back and forth and test the witnesses and come up with it, right? Very difficult. Even if you come up with a guilty, that's not good enough because you don't want to be a bloody Beit Din. It's very difficult things. So why do we use that example of the children of Yisachar? I think the answer is that this wisdom that they have for time is speaking exactly to this point. This ability of Yisachar to be able to carry a heavy load. Why? Vayar menucha kitov, because he could remember that menucha, that rest is good, therefore he could carry. Vayechi lisbol. In fact, maybe the pasuk is not telling us sequentially two things, but rather one thing with its reason. Let me explain what I mean. The grandchildren once came to the Hafetz Chaim at a family simcha. And they said, Grandpa, you know, you had a very difficult life. I mean, now, Baruch Hashem, you have the kavod, you have the respect, you have the books. But once upon a time, it was very difficult. How did you manage to get through the difficult times in your life? Anyway, Chafetz Chaim really did have difficult times, by the way. Just as an aside, before I answer this question. Sefer Otzrot Torah writes that when he was a younger rabbi, so they had nothing to eat. They were very poor. And his wife would go to the store, to the bakery, and she would buy the old bread that they were going to throw in the garbage for like a couple pennies. And the bread was hard. So she would come home, boil water, water's free, and she would take the bread and dip the hard bread in the boiling water so it would be soft enough for them to be able to eat and get some sustenance. This was their life. One day, Chafetz Chaim is studying, he hears his wife crying. He says, honey, what's wrong? And she said, the bakery won't sell me yesterday's bread anymore. And he said, why not? She said, because we owe them too much. We haven't been able to pay. She's buying old bread for a penny, but she's gathered enough too much pennies together that the bakery doesn't want to extend her credit for what? Credit for old bread. She's crying that this is her life. Anyway, the Chafetz Chaim comforts his wife, and his grandchildren say, he then turned around and he started saying out loud, Satan, Satan. Don't worry, he wasn't talking to his wife. Satan, Satan, he said. It won't work. Nothing is going to get me away from my Gemara. That's what he said. He did not see the bakery as being the problem, nor did he see his parnassah as being the problem. Like HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ki li ha-kesef v'li ha-zahav. Hashem has enough money for anyone and for everything. Poteach et yadecha u'mazbi'a lechol chai ratzon. God gives every living creature what they need. If I'm not getting, it's not because God doesn't want to give me. Satan, Satan. If you think that this ruse will derail me from my mission, you're wrong. So he had a will of iron, the Chafetz Chaim. But he did not answer them that the reason and the way he got through such challenging times was because he was so tough. He didn't say that. He gave them the following mashal, and this mashal is mind-blowing. He said there was a fellow who went to the Yerid. You have to understand, in many countries throughout Jewish history and our exile, the Jewish people became moneylenders. And there's a reason for that. Why did we become moneylenders? We were hated for money lending. Because they didn't let you go to university. They didn't let you join any of the guilds. You know what a guild is? There was a shoemaking guild, a candle making guild, a butchery guild, anything. It was like a union, like a mafia. You had to pay to get in, you had to be part of it in order to operate in the city if you wanted to do any trade. So they weren't allowed to trade. They weren't allowed to study in universities. So they couldn't get degrees to become doctors or lawyers or accountants. You couldn't do any of that. So what could you do? You know, brilliant, I know, I'll be a farmer. You weren't allowed to be a landowner. So what jobs were left for Jews to do? They hated the Jew that lent them money, but the Jew that lent them money was the Jew that they created. Okay? All these stories about a Jewish innkeeper. You know why they were innkeepers? Because they couldn't own land. So they would rent the land and the inn from the local landowner, the Poritz or whatever it was, and then sell whatever alcohol they could. And then the Gentiles hated them for selling them alcohol. It was a dystopian past that kind of, it's so hard to look back on now. And in many ways, it still is. Hate the Jews for doing what they need to do in Gaza when they didn't invite what they need to do in Gaza, right? Either way. And what are we doing there? My friends, I want to express so clearly this concept. So what did the guy do? He goes to the Yerid. He goes to the market. That's what it used to be. In every area, there was one big city. You went there, you gathered all the money you could, you went to that place, and the oldest law of economics, buy low, sell high. Find something, it didn't matter what. So one year, as a Jew, you were selling shoes. What were you selling the next year? Pants. The next year, perfume. Whatever you can get your hands on at a low price at the fair, that's what you came home with. And everyone gathered all their money, and if they could not make it to the fair, they would starve through the winter. So there were big cities that they had the Yerid, the big fair that they went. Anyway, one guy, he gathers all the money he has together. It's about 10,000 10,000 coins. He goes to the fair, but by the time he gets there through the weather and all the problems that he has, he gets there at the end of the fair. Almost everybody has bought everything. Most of the people selling have closed up shop. The guy's tearing his hair out. He can't come back home. The money's not enough to last him the winter, so he doesn't know what to do. Anyway, at the fair, he's walking around from place to place trying to find something. All of a sudden, a Jewish person runs up to him. He says, Reb Yid, they used to rely on each other in this unfriendly environment. He says, you have to do me a favor. He says, how much money? Everyone else I've spoken to doesn't have money. He says, I have here a huge deal that I'm trying to close. He says, I need some extra money. I have a stone, a diamond that's so brilliant, it's so huge. Back then they didn't need to worry about lab grown. You know if someone's giving you a diamond like that it's real. Anyway, he says, I have a stone over here, it's worth 40,000 coins. I'll give it to you for 30. You'll make a killing on the deal. Anyway, the guy says, I'm really sorry. He says, all I have is 10,000. He says, it's not enough. He goes, listen, fine. You drive a hard bargain. 20,000. Guy says, read my lips. No new 10,000. I can't believe you're old enough to even know what that is. Okay. It's been memeified, I guess, right? 10,000. I said, all I have is 10,000. The guy says, forget it. Leaves him. An hour later, he comes back. He says, listen, the deal that I've got over here is such a good deal for me that it's even worth taking a loss, but I need to complete that deal. He goes, I'll give it to you for 10,000. The guy says to him, he says, this is every penny I own. He says, I don't even have money to get home. Right? I have to be here for another week I have appointments, doctors, that's what they used to do in the big city. I have appointments here for I have to be here a week. I don't have money for a hotel. I don't have money for a train back. The guy says, listen, I'm giving you something 40K for 10,000. I'm not going to feel bad for you. He goes, here, you don't want to do the deal? Take $100 back, 100 coins from the 10,000 and make your way home. Deal or no deal? That one he knows. He says, okay, deal. He's got 100 coins. It's not enough for a train ride back. It's not enough for a hotel room. It's not enough for food. Wraps up the stone in his pocket. He goes and he stays, instead of in a hotel, he stays in the synagogue. He lies down on the back bench, lies down near the furnace in the corner, right? Hoping that he'll be able to find some food. Anyway, someone comes in, they bring a little extra leftover food. The guy can't believe he's a regular guy. I mean, he's not a wealthy man, but he's never had to take scraps of food from somebody. But he's thinking to himself, you know what? It is what it is. I did a great deal. I'll suffer a little bit. Day in, day out. Crusts of bread. A little bit of this. Half an eaten donut. Okay? Horrible. Back, forth, back, forth. No place to stay. Finally, the week is up. He doesn't have money for a train. He gets a horse and buggy. It takes him an extra week to get home instead of the train that he was used to be able to afford. People see him on the way back who know him. They're like, what's the deal? I don't understand. What are you doing in a place like this? You look like you haven't showered in a week. He says, that's because I haven't showered in a week. It's an accurate look. That's the look I was going for. Right? They can't believe it. What's going on? He says, listen, I did a deal. I spent every dime that I had. And it's, I put it into this deal, and now I got to suffer till I get home, till I'm able to sell it back in retail in my city. My friends, he gets home. His kids look at him, they can't believe. His eyes are sunken, he stinks to high heavens, his hair is scraggly, he's coughing and he's sneezing and what, Dad, what is this? What happened to you? How come you're a week late? He tells them everything that happened. They said, Hazit, all of this, how did you do it? How did you put up with it? Who could do that? Who could be embarrassed that way? Anyway, he reaches in his pocket, he unfolds the folds of material, and he holds out this diamond, and he says, look, this is why. This is how. Anytime it was a little too much, I turned into a corner. Anytime I thought to myself, this is horrible, I just turned around, found a private place, opened it up, I looked at the diamond that was in my possession, and you know what? It gave me the strength. I knew it's only temporary. In 2 weeks max, but then the whole winter, we 4x'd our money without doing 1 day of work. I pushed through because I had the diamond to look at. Said the Havetz Chaim to his children, that's how I managed in my life. I was able to recognize that what I have is so valuable and it's so precious that it's worth the suffering I'm going through. Not to minimize the suffering, but to be able to say this versus this, it's worth it. And the idur, the encouragement he got from looking at the diamond, allowed him to get through the most difficult days of his life. That's the definition of the pasuk. Yisachar, his father tells him, you're a carrier. You could carry anything. A difficult day at the office, you could carry it. Getting fired to keep Shabbat, you could carry it. Late nights, you could carry it. Grumbling stomach, you could carry it. You're a carrier. You're a donkey, you've got it, you can put it on your back. What does he do? What's the secret of the donkey that allows him to Vayechi lizbol, to put his shoulder and to burden it, to take the burden? What allows him? Vayar menucha kitob. He looks at the menucha, right? What do we say when someone passes away? We say menuchato eden, right? Right? This concept, menucha, the place of his final resting place. The Havetz Chaim said, if a person looks at what he's doing, what he's achieving, then all the suffering in the world that's allowing him to have those things, it's nothing. Vayechi lizbol. And what are you lifting? You're lifting menucha. If someone makes you drag heavy weights back and forth, what are you? You're a slave. But when you're dragging heavy suitcases on your way to vacation, who are you? you're a king. When you recognize what the weight is for, suddenly you become a Yisachar. Vayechi shechmo lizbol. My friends, oftentimes people ask this question. Rabbi, I don't know. It's so hard. It's so difficult. I can't deal with this anymore. And I tell them, you're right. As you are looking at your tzarot, you cannot carry what you're carrying. But you have to do something else. I'm not saying ignore it. I'm saying take a minute, go into the corner, and unwrap the diamond that you have in your life. Your wife, your children. There are many people who have a lot, but they don't have this. And you know what? That's also a burden. To not have those things. So my friends, I want to ask and I want to encourage. I like to keep things very clear and very simple. And I think that's why the message resonates with people who are going through things in their life. Because it's not complicated and it's not complex. I'm going to ask you a question. If you had to assign a value, a sticker, a worth to the various things in your life, $100. My car, how much is my car worth? My scooter, I love my scooter. It gets me everywhere. How much is my scooter? How much is your house? How much is your vacations that you got? What's the value for each one of these things? Now, try and imagine, after you valued all those things, a nice burger, try and imagine your family. Try and imagine being a Jewish person who finds fulfillment in Torah and mitzvot. Try to imagine that you're a person who has an education. Try to imagine you're a person who could study Torah. Try to imagine that you're someone who's worked on their midot. Try to imagine that you're a person who in the past was blessed with the most beautiful brothers or sisters, who was blessed with a father or mother that really inspired them. Unbelievable. What each one of these things, treasures. And every once in a while, when things are very difficult, go to the corner, open it up. Don't forget the scooter. Forget the car and the house. What are the diamonds that are sitting there where you say, I don't have that, but I got this. And it's not only, let me not think about something that's bad. It's that I paid a price for these things. Yeah, I could have had a father, okay, who gave me every luxury in the world, but was never home. Is that what I would have wanted? The relationship that I had with him is a diamond. The price I paid for that diamond is not having a father that was never home because he was always working. So you're upset? It's hard. No problem. Put it on your back. Vayechi shechmo lizbol. You know why? Because vayar menucha kitov. Because what I got from it was so worthwhile that this temporary thing, it's only another few days. It's only another few weeks. It's only another few months. This guy gets home because he knows, how long is it going to be? How long is it going to be? My friends, whatever you're going through, there used to be a song, I think about it all the time. It was sung by, I don't know who the kid's name is, I think it was Mustaki, maybe Yeled Hapele, on those old tapes in Israel.
That was the Hardy.
You know which song I'm talking about? So how are you correcting me on who it is if you don't even know it's... Doc, I love you. The song goes like this. The song goes like this. Maybe it was his dad, who knows? Gam ze ya'avor alecha yedidi. Gam ze ya'avor alecha yedidi. La la la. Anyway, I'm not going to sing you the whole song. You don't need to hear, you don't need to hear my voice. Shema kolenu is said about someone else. Okay? So this song, Gam Zeya, this is going to pass. It will pass. It's going to be, don't worry. It's just temporary. But I need to go through this to get this. What are your diamonds? what will get you through these times. Hashem should bless us, Be'ezrat Hashem, to recognize all the magnificent things that we have for the extreme price that we have already paid. You know, I'll end with this. I went on Pesach with a dear friend of mine whose name is Mati. And Mati said to me something magnificent. Mati said, Syrians or Sephardim, when they come on the trip, he says, and he tells them the price, forget about it. They're bargaining with him and they're complaining and they're kvetching and they're haggling. It can't be, it's too much, I can't pay. He's only a kid, he never eats, never in his life, he never ate anything. The kid eats air, what do I have to pay for? He doesn't sleep on the floor, he sleeps in my bed. He's not even, you don't even have to make up the couch. It shouldn't be an extra $1, right? Arguing, complaining. He says the Ashkenaz people, no complaining. How much is it? Okay, here's my credit card, charge. No complaining. He says, but then you get on the trip, and the Syrians are at the beach and at the pool, not a word. You don't even see them the whole 10 days. Ashkenaz guys coming over, how come the food, how come my room and my bed and the quarter. He says, everybody in the Jewish nation complains. Only question is when. I think Hashem made sure that we complain at different times. Like it says by Yaakov Avinu, because he knows he won't be able to deal with all the complaints at one time. Hashem says, let me divide the Jewish people into different time complainers. But I think if you have to choose a time to complain, I think the better time to complain is not after you're already paid, after you're already there. You're already here, you already paid the price. At least enjoy the thing you paid for while you've got it. What a ridiculous thing it would be to be a person who paid the ultimate price to have those beautiful things, those beautiful diamonds. And then, when you have the beautiful diamonds you paid for, to be kvetching and complaining about your family and about this and about how it's not what you... What a ridiculous thing that you paid twice. Baruch Hanei Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Chananya.